Hi, and welcome to New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design. Today we're taking a look at Forever People number 4. Meet Desaad. He knows what he is and loves it. Alienation turns a happy place into hell. Read Kingdom of the Damned. Kirby's fourth world of the Forever People. So there's that fourth world moniker again. It's also going to be on Mr. Miracle number 4. It's on all of Jack Kirby's issue 4s, and then you don't see it again. And it's unclear what the intent of the term is. It wasn't created by Jack. It wasn't created by Jack's office. It was created in the DC offices. It was embraced by the fandom and became a catch-all term for this grouping of Jack Kirby's books. In the letters columns, Mark Evanier and Steve Sherman, who put those letters columns together, they were trying to sort of float the term of, the trilogy or the tetralogy, if you want to include Jimmy Olsen. So it was alternately called the tetralogy and then also called the trilogy when Jimmy Olsen was dropped. And whenever Kirby would talk about this series, he never referred to it as the fourth world. He would refer to it as the New Gods, which was his initial catch-all term for, New Gods, Forever People, and Mr. Miracle. Because it's Jack's preferred term, and I feel it's more descriptive, it's my preferred term for the grouping over fourth world. Fourth world has a cool ring to it, but it just, like, John Byrne made a comic called Jack Kirby's Fourth World. Jack Kirby never did. I get the impression that this is something that, Jack, would not have chosen. Now, Jack was also sort of like a yes and kind of guy. He was definitely an improviser, and when the fandom seemed to grasp onto Fourth World, then he sort of went along with it for a little bit. And there was a cover for the Demon. It might have been like the issue 1 covers, the issue 1 cover of the Demon. He wrote in the corner box, Fourth World of Horror. Now, that never made it to print, but it was in his pencil. So at least in that, that's like the only instance I can think of where Jack, actively embraces the term Fourth World. Great cover. I like the, they're trying something, catch your eye and stuff, so making these into red color holds. We're in Desaad's world. We're in Desaad's, Chamber of Horrors. It opens kind of similarly to Forever People number 3, where it's, we see a group of just ordinary people, all massed together. And in the first one, it was Glorious Godfrey's followers with this sort of, hypnotized zombie look in their eye. And then here it's Desaad's victims. And they're in, some kind of chamber of horrors. And now sometimes I'll write notes in the bottom of my comics, just sort of notes for, like, I wrote redraw as superheroes or new gods trapped. So it was probably around the time I was working on superpowers and sort of, looking through, DC Comics for various ideas or things I could use. And so this idea of, like, all these trapped people, instead of just having, ordinary people horrified, trapped, what if it was, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, all these superheroes trapped? Or what if it was, Orion, Mr. Miracle, in here, pretty solid idea. So maybe someday. The kingdom of the damned is not a far place. It's not a hidden place. It's in full view of us all. But it has been rigged by a malignant force so that its tormented inmates are seen and heard and ignored. Isn't there any hope? Why won't they rescue us? I don't know. They must not see us through that glass window. They can hear us too. There's a speaker system up here. Why don't they respond? Help, help, we're prisoners. What's wrong with them? Why can't they see our desperate situation? You out there, help, help, help. Get ready. Laughter and joy, it's happy land. And who among us would rush to aid the victims of the cruelty when the sights we see and the sounds we hear are bright and joyous? For are we not in Happy Land, conceived in a world called Apocalypse, and built on earth by the subtle, the clever, the evil, Desaad? This is it. This is Happy Land. And I just really love that reveal that they're in this, horrific state and they're in full view of everybody, but the master scrambler is working smoothly. The fools trapped in that image little realize that we are distorting their cries into laughter. Like us, these humans are serving the needs of Desaad, but I'm certain that he finds them more entertaining. But what can Desaad be planning that brings the great Darkseid to this place? The craft bearing him approaches now. That's a really great concept Kirby came up with of, people being, imprisoned and tortured and to add insult to injury, their cries for help are changed into laughter. And, it's just putting this like happy face on this slaughterhouse, basically. And again, this stuff that Kirby's doing here, it's just really runs deep. It's just, just like an excellent metaphor, and you can kind of, spend some time thinking about it, what it means, what's, how it applies to real life. And there's echoes here of what he was doing in Fantastic Four towards the end with Doctor Doom's Latveria, sort of like a riff on The Prisoner. This is very Prisoner-esque, but for some reason, it seems much more horrific and much more focused here than it does in the Fantastic Four. You have like the marching band and stuff, which is, part of The Prisoner, and just this like happy, aren't we just so happy, and isn't life so wonderful? And, meanwhile, everybody's imprisoned. And if they put this in like a Forever People movie or a New Gods movie, they could, really kind of stick it to Disney and Marvel and make it, like a spoof of Disney World, which I think, this Peter Pan hat, I think is kind of pointing to. And so, the kids see, Darkseid's cruiser approaching, and, they just assume it's all part of the show, all part of the fun. Message acknowledged. Stand by for the coming of Darkseid. Our master Desaad awaits you, great Darkseid. He prepares a most interesting feat in your honor.
If this involves mere cruelty, I may not be amused. However, you may lead me to Desaad.
This way, sire. And so here's the Forever People. They're all trapped. I have to imagine in, Jack's drawn version, there's probably a lot more business and circuitry and greeble, here and there for it. I feel this simplification. Again, though it's a very effective simplification, I feel like that's Vinny's doing, and I would love to see all the little circuits and whatnot that Kirby, I'm sure, drew in there. And so the Forever People are trapped. They were knocked unconscious at the end of the previous issue, and now they're trapped. They're not sure what's going on, and they don't know where Mother Box is. And Viking's helmet is sort of reaching out to her, and they know that she's near. They're just not sure where. And so then these guards come in. Seraphin gets one of his cosmic cartridges ready to throw at those guys, but instead of him getting them, they get him. They blast him. And this is, it's a superhero comic, ostensibly. And in this issue, the heroes don't get to play hero once. They are getting, their asses kicked nonstop. They're basically being tortured the whole issue. It kind of reminds me of Empire Strikes Back, and it's something you just wouldn't see in a superhero comic back then. Even a Spider-Man issue, he gets a couple good jabs in, and but here they're just being. It's like the story of like a martyr or something. Like you're seeing them martyred. You're seeing them being tortured, and just creates a great tension, and just Kirby's bringing real literary merit to superhero comics. And so they throw these vertigo grenades. Great idea. Vertigo grenade makes you spin. I'm sure such a thing exists now. And yeah, this really nice shot of them sort of splayed about in this dungeon. It's almost like this is Jack Kirby's Red Room or something. It's as much of sort of a torture comic as you could do under the code in the 70s. Dispatch unit, send us transport. These new play toys are ready to be carted off for our master's pleasure. Fine, Desaad is in a frenzy for sport. He is occupied even at this moment. Do you hear that, New Genesis dogs? Desaad will soon attend to you, and you would quail if you knew what keeps him busy right now. First of all, this is, just a beautiful drawing. I mean, Darkseid looks like that looks like the trademark for Darkseid. It's kind of like, halfway between just like all out Kirby and the toy packaging or the cartoon image. It's really, just like a nice drawing of this, this, sort of terrifying character, this sort of, tombstone in human form. This guy's super awesome. You never see him again, but he's the, Apocalypse Executioner. And then here's Desaad. So we're in Desaad's world. Happy Land is Desaad's realm. And Desaad has been, he's been a character who's gotten a lot of screen time across these series from the beginning. But this is like the first kind of like showcase issue for him where, he really gets to shine. And we get like a really full sense of what this guy's about. And he is a very important character for this body of work. I mean, my introduction to these characters was on the Super Friends TV show, and it really was like you didn't get any of the heroes from the New Gods on those cartoons. You just got the villains, and it was this unholy trinity. It was Darkseid, Desaad, and Kalibak, and Desaad was a very important part of that. This key character, and you think about it, it's like those three villains kind of. They make up almost like an encapsulation of just sort of, the dark side of humanity. They're like three different flavors of evil. You sort of have Darkseid, who is just this sort of, cold, unyielding, whatever the opposite of cuddly is. He's just like, there's no love to be had. He's sort of calculated, aloof, but then also somewhat self-protective. And then you have, Kalibak, who is just sort of, brutal, bestial, just sort of angry, rageful, animalistic. We haven't seen a ton of him so far through the series, but as like New Gods goes on, he'll get a lot more screen time and sort of get his moment to shine. And then you have Desaad, who is just sort of cruelty personified, and this glee, this joy that he gets from watching the suffering of others and causing the suffering of others. And you sort of put those three together, and you pretty much have like the full package of just the worst that humanity has to offer. And so we have this scene of a mother box being tortured or executed, as Darkseid says,
"The murder of a mother box. I didn't think you were foolish enough to attempt it, Desaad. This should prove amusing indeed."
Bear with me, great Darkseid. My technicians have labored feverishly to fashion the protective hood and killing gloves for my executioner. Now the mother box is completely at my mercy, like its companions, the Forever People. The thing reacts, Master, as if it registers fear. It does have a certain claim to life. Ping, 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 ping. I didn't catch this before in my zillion readings of this, but Desaad is talking about these killing gloves, and the killing gloves make another appearance, sort of more famous appearance in New Gods #7, The Pact. They look different. They're obviously an earlier design, but I never sort of caught that connection before. Yeah, these killing gloves, they look very very painful, and this sort of executioner or torturer is doing a number on Mother Box. And I got to say, it's, the torture of the Forever People throughout this issue. But I feel like the thing that tugs at your heartstrings the most is watching Mother Box get killed. I know that's strange, but it's kind of like, cruelty to animals in a movie or a show or a comic is just so much harder to take than even seeing like cruelty to people, like as strange as that sounds. And even more so, it's like, cruelty to robots for some reason. I don't know if we sort of see them as these sort of, extreme innocents. Like I just know that, like, when you see, Han Solo getting in carbonite or something. Like, as bad as that is, like if there was a scene where they were torturing R2D2, I think the audience would have a much harder time with that. Like, and so I feel like this scene goes in that way too. I guess also it's sort of like you sort of subconsciously know that, nothing, the forever people aren't going to be killed, but Mother Box, it's very possible we're going to see Mother Box get obliterated. So I don't know if that adds to it, but I don't think that's the full explanation, for it. Part of it could be those things like Scott McCloud talks about, where the less specific something is, the more we identify with it. So we don't identify with the forever people quite as much as we do with this rectangle with a circle in it, because there's hardly any information there. So we can sort of see ourselves within this like extremely simplified abstract embodiment of life and of the ability to suffer. We see it gets more and more intense. It looks like those listen to it, master. Even as the electro spikes begin to pierce it, it screams. Suddenly, Zorsh. Just because of the code and stuff, like, you're not going to see a scene where those spiky electrode gloves, go into Mark Moonrider's head or something, but you are going to see it on this robot. So it's, kind of a little bit excruciating, I got to say, as a reading experience, in a good way. You get pulled into the drama.
The Mother Box has vanished. They always do that.
No, it's disintegrated. That's it. I've made it commit suicide. Ha 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 ha. I really like this, the composition here. I love the colors. I love this like purple and blue, 2 different shades of purple and on Darkseid. It's just like a really nice looking image, and just the drama of the moment's great. And this guy's been knocked backwards, and now Desaad, he's trying to convince himself that yes, he has killed this Mother Box, but you can tell he knows that no, something that he didn't want to happen happened, and he's maybe trying to save face in front of his boss, but then also maybe trying to convince himself, because he's he was so like lustful for this horrific outcome, and so he's trying to convince himself that he got the outcome he was looking for, and not that he's been thwarted.
You crow too soon and too loudly, Desaad. Does the Mother Box vanish or disintegrate? You don't really know, nor do I. A Mother Box is linked to the infinite and made to plague us.
Forgive me, great Darkseid. In my zeal to please you, I may have chosen the wrong subject. I really do like the way these 2 characters play off of each other, in general and specifically here. They're just like a really good twosome. They you could almost call them like a comedy duo, even though what happens with them is rarely funny, but it's always interesting. There's always an interesting interplay. And Jack Kirby talked about how he sort of modeled Darkseid after Jack Palance. Like if there was an actor who was going to play Darkseid in a movie, he would want Jack Palance. And I feel like this drawing right here in particular, like that really looks like Jack Palance a lot. Like it looks more like Jack Palance than it does like Darkseid. And so Darkseid's kind of had enough. He obviously does have a certain fondness for Desaad, and he definitely sees a practical purpose and a use for Desaad. But Darkseid seems to get a little bit like skeeved and grossed out, if he spends too much time with Desaad, or if he gets caught up too much in Desaad's world, and he kind of has to like leave. He kind of has to, leave and maybe go take a shower. Like all great leaders, sire, you have the common touch. Are they not your future slaves? Among them is hidden the mind which can solve the anti-life equation. With the answer to that,
I shall control every living creature in this universe with a mere word.
So there we go again, touching on the stakes. And so Darkseid goes out for a walk among the people at Happy Land. They just think he's part of the, look, Tommy, there's a real live spaceman from the Galaxy exhibit. It'd be kind of like if Darkseid went to Comic-Con or something, and they would just assume he's, some guy dressed up as Darkseid. Grandpa, that man is scary. Make him go away. I'm afraid, Grandpa. Hush, child, it's not polite to embarrass strangers. Why, this gentleman is probably in the cast of some show here, aren't you, sir?
No, Grandpa, I'm the real thing.
I mean, this is another awesome moment. Darkseid really does get the best moments, in this comic. And man, this is great. He's just awful. This kid is scared. Grandpa's trying to console her, and Darkseid's like, "No, I'm the real thing. This is no time for jokes, friend. Can't you see this child is frightened?"
Of course, friend. All young humans recognize the real thing when they see it.
I mean, yeah, just a great moment. Great words. It's just and they sort of run off. The kid's sad. Grandpa's angry, and Darkseid, is it just sort of loves it. Has this big laugh. Darkseid is at his scariest when he's smiling, and he's even scarier when he's laughing. I don't think, so far, I don't think Darkseid has ever looked as good as he looks in this issue. I think, it's all starting to come together. And that is the insidious charm of Happy Land. For Moonrider, it's now an unbreakable, transparent cage. So this is where we see what happens to all the members of the Forever People. Each one has a specific torture. What's wrong with you? I know you can hear me through this opening. Why do you just sit and stare? And just like, the first couple pages of this story, we see that what they see outside of that glass is not what's going on inside. Mark Moonrider, to them, just looks like a skeleton, and his cries for help are just, these like boo, the crew, these moans, from sort of a cheesy horror ride. Oh, the dragon is much more frightening than that animated skeleton. So even, the horror of it is sort of belittled. It's there's this huge system in place that is designed to make human suffering palatable to the masses, to the audience, and even make it funny or pleasurable. It's Jack Kirby's working on some pretty heavy themes here. There, look at Moonrider's face. He's beginning to break, losing hope. And of course, the dry laugh of Desaad. Desaad, is getting bored of this channel, and so he wants to turn to the next channel. So he's going to see what's up with Big Bear. And Big Bear keeps getting, zapped with vibro waves and gets knocked back, loses his bearings. And then just as he's starting to get back a little bit of his strength, and he tries to, tell everybody to stop, these people with these blaster guns, DC explodes. What they see is a literal bear, a sort of, shooting gallery. Shoot the robot bear. Win loads of great prizes. Shoot the robot bear. This would make a great movie. I think they're dropping the ball if they don't make this happen sooner rather than later. And so now Desaad is just sort of enjoying his goblet, his crunk. It's all this sort of medieval torture stuff. Marquis Desaad, and in the Mr. Miracle number 4, there's also sort of this, torture motif going on in there too. So it was, definitely on Kirby's mind, and sort of maybe he was watching some Hammer horror movies, or maybe this was, the point in the story where he wants to sort of address these issues. It was sort of hinted at in the Calabax torture chamber in one of the pinups in issue 4 of New Gods. And then we get like another, sort of great splash page, and this is the torture that he has planned for Beautiful Dreamer. And Desaad has never looked more horrific. He has like this Crypt Keeper look going, Crypt Keeper haircut too. She's Sleeping Beauty, again continuing that sort of Disney World comparison, and so and what her torture is, she's surrounded by these lecherous ghouls, and what they see and what she sees are two different things. They see, sort of a sleeping robot princess, and what she sees is, lecherous ghouls. Win $1,000. Whisper the magic word that awakens the sleeping robot princess. Everybody, files in and tries to whisper into her ear the magic word that's going to wake her up, but those magic words that they're whispering get translated by Desaad's machine into, obscenities and, horrific sounds and words. And, Kirby is really, he's really creating a really dire situation for all of these characters, all these superheroes. And you can't wait for, some release, somebody to sort of cut loose or, some way out of this hell on earth. We have Seraphim, and then each torture is kind of worse than the last. And Seraphim's is, incredibly horrific. I'm trying to think when that movie Roller Coaster came out. I think Roller Coaster came out after this. I think Roller Coaster was like mid-'70s. This is early 70s. But Viking is about to be decapitated by a roller coaster unless Seraphim kicks this release pedal that makes him, pop down, makes him go down. But then he gets raised back up again, and the next time the roller coaster comes around, he has to kick it. So he has to just keep kicking this thing. And but look, his chair is raising once more. It's happening again, and again, and again, and again. But never fear, you'll be here in this chair, boy, kicking the pedal to save his life. Just don't get tired. It could be fatal to your friend. So, man, yeah, this one is just, basically making Seraphim responsible for his best friend, Viking, and that if he slips up for one moment, he'll be responsible for the murder of his friend. It just can't get any worse. And then we find out what happens to Mother Box. Mother Box materializes. What is this I have fallen heir to? Mother Box, when she disappeared, she didn't die, she didn't explode. She dematerialized herself so she could rematerialize somewhere else, inside the locker room of Sonny Sumo. I don't remember seeing it in this room before. Strange how it fills me with thoughts of awareness, life. Okay, it's time to stop your meditating and, hey, what's that? I don't know, but inside it, the ancient winds of trouble blow, calling out my name for help. A glimmer of hope in this dire situation. And we don't know anything about Sonny Sumo. We sort of enter Sonny Sumo, and he for a little while becomes, another member of the Forever People. A good cliffhanger, nothing but dread all issue, and then a little bit of relief, a little bit of a possibility of hope and of rescue, that Mother Box has found somebody to help, kind of like Lassie or something. Lassie has gotten out there and has to somehow convince, Sonny to help. And now we get a nice pinup of the team, minus Beautiful Dreamer, but don't worry, she'll be in the next one. Then we have the letters column buzzing in the boom tube, where somebody refers to it as the trilogy. I always liked Jack Kirby's thing was referred to as the trilogy, because that's become the nomenclature for this letter writer. Compares it to Lord of the Rings, and yeah, the trilogy. George Lucas would later, call, Star Wars the Star Wars trilogy. You'll also see it referred to as, in these letter columns, you'll see it referred to as a saga, just like Star Wars, the Star Wars saga, the Star Wars trilogy. How much of that is coincidence and how much of that is influence is, to be determined. Yeah, nowhere in this letter page do they refer to it as the fourth world. And then here we have Beautiful Dreamer. I always loved this splash. Beautiful Dreamer versus Darkseid both hold the key to victory in the strangest war ever fought in comicdom's history. So this sort of tells me that Beautiful Dreamer is going to have some sort of role in the final battle with Darkseid. Maybe a key role, maybe the most important role. Maybe she's the one that delivers the killing stroke. Now, when Kirby does, create an ending to this story, she doesn't really figure into it at all. She's nowhere to be found. And then, there are some characters who perform a similar role to Beautiful Dreamer, but not Beautiful Dreamer herself. When they make the New Gods movie or whatever, they're going to have to figure out a way to, it was part of Kirby's plans. Another thing part of Kirby's plans, in the artist edition, you can see that Kirby had drawn giant, he had drawn full eyes. He didn't draw like these empty empty white eyes. He drew, a big, whatever you call it, cornea and pupil. And I mean, I think it looks better this way. I think that was a good call to not ink that. But I don't know. The Kirby way is it's pretty fucking intense. It delivers. But yeah, this is just really great image of just really great image making. This could be a tremendous cover. I had plans to copy this image in Superpowers, and I'll have to find it somewhere. I put down tracing paper, and basically instead of Beautiful Dreamer versus Darkseid, it was Jaina of the Wonder Twins versus the Sphinx, which was sort of my big villain of Superpowers. Although I do as the series goes on, I hint at that the Sphinx might be underneath his mask, might actually be Darkseid. But really, really nice image there. Maybe one of the best images of this whole, this trilogy, this, the Fourth World, or, this tetralogy. And so we get this like classic Kirby self-portrait that we'll see, multiple times. And there he is drawing a page of New Gods. There's Orion. Kirby's the name and comics is my game. I can tell you, pals, I enjoy every minute of it. Sure, it's great going round that big creative bend and bringing in a sensational newie. But the biggies of the golden age of comics remain a giant experience in themselves. Try a bag of genuine golden age grabbers. There's one of mine in this mag. Could be a classic from the Boy Commandos, Sandman, Manhunter, or the original Newsboy Legion. Everything is as it was. This is the actual cover for the Golden Age Sandman story you're about to read. It's a collector's item. Jack. So yeah, we get these Sandman reprints. Again, they're great, but I just want all Apocalypse, all New Genesis all the time, when I get an issue of this stuff. But I understand. It's the 1940s. Who gives a shit? Come on, it's the 70s. We don't give two shits about what was going on in the 40s. Dreams and fate mingle in startling fashion again as the mysterious Sandman and Sandy sweep along other paths of peril in classic adventures in each issue of The Forever People. I find that highly entertaining. Now this is something right here. From the far reaches beyond space and time, where real and unreal have no meaning, emerges a champion whose powers are not governed by the laws of the universe. You know him as the Infinity Man. So yeah, this is just great. What a great picture, great background, great Kirby crackle. You got some Kirby, you got a little bit of like Vinny's flavor put on it. It's just really nice. And no Infinity Man in this issue, so it's nice to get him in here in the back matter. These pinups, we've seen pinups in Fantastic Four, all that kind of stuff, but these ones in Forever People, New Gods, Mr. Miracle, they just have like a little extra oomph. I don't know if maybe because there just aren't that many pictures of the Infinity Man, compared to, Sue Storm or Reed Richards, so you sort of treasure each one. But it's just, just really great, this little glimpse into this, amazing world Kirby's creating. And again, that could be a cover too. I don't know, maybe he drew that to be the cover of, Infinity Man's spin-off book. I hope you enjoyed this look at Forever People number 4. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design. Thank you for joining me for New Gods Sunday School.